Hello, everyone, and welcome to the University Writing Center's online webinar on writing grant proposals for partners in scholarship. My name is Dr. David Riche, and I'm going to be guiding you through today's workshop. For today's agenda, we're going to be discussing, and also I will give you some time to write about the 6 major aspects of the PinS grant proposal: research question, methods, written presentation, personal outcomes, student preparation, and faculty cooperation. Before we move further, let me just note, if you have any questions about the PinS process or PinS grant proposals that are not answered by this webinar, please be sure to contact either Dr. Kate Tennis, email provided, or Grace Warner, email provided. Furthermore, if you have concerns about conducting research during the COVID-19 crisis, please consult the Undergraduate Research Center's website at link provided for more information and specific restrictions. Now, we're going to organize this webinar according to the proposal rubric. You can find the proposal rubric at the Undergraduate Research Center's website, link provided here. Scroll down to PinS and Summer Research Grant Application Instructions, and there you'll find the proposal rubric and the link to apply. Be sure to read the rubric for grant proposals thoroughly, and do not forget that your application needs a title, an abstract, and a budget justification. Your abstract should be 2 to 3 sentences in length, and it should provide a clear explanation of the motivation and plan of the proposed project that is understandable to non-experts in your field. We will return to this point in a moment. Also, keep in mind that space is at a premium here. You will probably need to fill up the 2 single-space pages with the proposal itself, leaving your 3rd page for references, a timeline, and a budget justification. Use your space wisely. Here you'll see a copy of the rubric, but as I said before, you can also view and download this rubric as you see it here from the Undergraduate Research Center's website. Simply follow the link provided in the previous slide. Okay. So let's begin with the very first criteria, the research question, i.e. the novelty and impact of your project. Now, this may seem like a tangent, but let me start off by noting that renowned sociologist John Swales has suggested that most effective introductions to research projects typically make 3 conventional moves, which he dubs the create a research space, or CARS model. The first move is to establish your territory, and this can take on a variety of forms. For example, you could claim centrality by insisting upon the importance of the topic to the moment at hand. You could make topic generalizations, and you can review prior research on the topic. Once you've established the territory of your research, then you have to establish your niche within it. And some of the ways you can do that are by counterclaiming, suggesting that prior research may have gotten something wrong, or at least not entirely accurate. You can indicate a gap in prior research that has yet to be filled. You can raise questions about the existing research or about the topic. Or you might even continue a tradition of research that was started by someone else and that you are moving forward. And then finally, a research introduction occupies that niche by outlining the purposes of the project and/or announcing the present research, and if the research has already been conducted, principal findings. Now, what does this have to do with your PinS grant proposal? Well, you can readily apply the moves that Swales describes in his model above to your own PinS grant proposals. Granted, you probably won't have any principal findings prepared yet, but you can still use your proposal as an opportunity to create the research space that your work will occupy. Furthermore, creating a research space will also enable your proposal reviewers to accurately and judiciously assess the potential impact that your work may have. So To begin with, you'll need to establish your territory and your niche for your research project. So consider these questions. How can you define the research problem or the creative endeavor so that it looks novel and worthwhile? How well does your project fill a gap in either existing knowledge or the extant body of creative works? And why is it important to fill this gap? Take note, proposals should incorporate at least 3 existing sources of relevant research. Why are you undertaking this project? And what exactly is the question or set of questions that you hope to answer? Be prepared to offer a clear 1-sentence statement of your research question. It's good advice to follow in any case, especially once you get to the process of writing up your brief abstract. All right, so as we are working our way through this webinar, I'm going to come to a few slides just like this one, in which I'm going to allow you to pause the video so that you can take some time to answer these questions either for yourself, perhaps write about them, perhaps review a draft of a proposal you already have prepared. If you would rather not pause the video and just continue on through, that is fine, though these questions will nonetheless be important as you are working on your proposal. So, if you would like to pause the video at this point and take some time to think or write about your responses to the following questions, please do so now. I will resume the talk through for the webinar in a few moments. All right, and welcome back. Moving on, the methods criteria, i.e. the feasibility of your project and the risks that it might entail. So, next, you need to begin occupying your niche. Consider the following questions based on the type of project you are proposing. If you're proposing a research project, what exactly is your data? Or what will count as your data? How will you collect that data? Why is this a reasonable design for your project's data collection? And what are the risky aspects of your project, if any, and how might you manage those risks? If you are proposing a creative project, what will your materials be? How will you be working with those materials? How will this project engage broader questions in your particular field? And what, if any, are the risky aspects of your project, and how will you manage those risks? Keep in mind that your project may not pan out the way that you originally intended. That is one of the risks. What might you do in that case? All right. Now for some follow-up questions. What are the specific steps that you will need to take in order to collect your data, and in what order? And what are the sub-steps, if any? How much can you, or do you, need to break down each step further? Remember to be specific about your methods. Pay attention to the who, the what, the when, the where, and the how. Additionally, it's a good idea to use measurable language whenever possible. Case in point, understand, know, appreciate, and think are less measurable as verbs. They're much more abstract. More measurable verbs include practicing, demonstrating, communicating, and applying. All right. Once again, you may pause the video at this point and take some time to think or write about your responses to the following questions. I will resume the talk through for this webinar in a few moments. Okay, and welcome back. Next, we have the writing presentation criteria, i.e. audience awareness. So, let's think about the audience for a moment. Your readers are highly educated, but not necessarily specialists in your particular field. Keep in mind that your grant proposal will be read by professors and faculty members from across the university. So even if you are proposing, say, a biology research project, you may have an art history professor reading your grant proposal. Therefore, you should avoid using jargon that someone from a different field of study won't understand. And if you need to use jargon for the sake of clarity, you should be sure to explain it to someone who hasn't encountered that jargon before. In terms of style, it's a good idea for your language to use active verbs and concrete words, similar to that measurable versus less measurable language I mentioned earlier. Your tone should emulate a scholarly, interdisciplinary conversation, similar to writing an academic paper. Your goal is to draw in your reader's attention. Impress them by making your research interests more clear rather than showing off what you already know to someone who already is an expert in your field. Your best method for assessing your written presentation is to share your work with a highly educated, non-specialist reader. At the end of this webinar, I'll provide you with information on how you can connect with the University Writing Center and possibly set up a consultation. Once again, if you would like to pause the video at this point and take some time to think or write about your responses to the following questions, feel free. I'll resume the talk through for this webinar in a few moments. All right, and welcome back. Personal student outcomes. So these next few slides, I'm going to be pausing as well so that you can take time to think through these questions. But for these next two criteria, I do want to stress this. You must be prepared to answer the question, why are you, and you in particular, a good person to be doing this kind of work? How will this help you to advance in some of your own goals? How might this project help you to develop your skills? How might it extend to your personal opportunities or career prospects? That's the first part of answering the question, why are you a good person to be doing this kind of work? So take a moment to reflect on these questions, and I'll resume the talk through for this webinar in a few moments. And welcome back. Okay, so the next factor is going to be student preparation. And again, this factors into you must be prepared to answer the question, why are you a good person to be doing this kind of work? What preparation have you had? Have you taken classes? Have you worked with your faculty collaborator before? Have you done this kind of research before? Are you building upon a research tradition or a body of research that already exists and perhaps that you've already played a role with? So take some time to consider these questions. Once again, you may pause the video. I will resume the talk through for this webinar in a few moments. All right, and welcome back. Next, we have faculty collaboration as a final criteria. So, once more, if you would like, you may pause the video at this point and take some time to think or write about your responses to the following questions. I will resume the talk through for this webinar in a few moments. All right, and welcome back. Do remember that the budget is important. A grant proposal means that you are asking for funding, and so anyone who approves your grant wants to know where that funding is going to be going and for what purpose. So, this from the proposal rubric. Provide a rationale for your budget justification. The budget should be detailed, including specific items to be ordered with quantity, and well reasoned to show the reviewers why the provided funds are needed to support your research project. Often, calculations are used to explain budget requirements and estimations of cost. You can see an example here. Now, budget usage guidelines from the Undergraduate Research Center. Budget requests for research-related travel, supplies, materials, user participation, compensation are allowed. All non-consumable materials and equipment must stay with the faculty advisor or department. If you are purchasing non-consumable materials or equipment, you must explain your plan for these materials or equipment. Disallowed expenses include payment for training, courses, and lessons. In terms of PinS grants, personal stipends are not allowed. For summer grants, personal housing expenses in Denver cannot be budgeted. This should be part of your stipend. Any stipend requires a separate 1.8% fringe charge, all of which must fit within the maximum allowed budget. All right, and some final reminders. 1, make sure readers understand how your specific research connects with the bigger picture, the larger significance of your project. Again, this goes back to establishing your territory, establishing your niche, and occupying your niche. If you have no territory for your research or you can't connect it to a bigger picture, reviewers are going to have a much harder time seeing the value of your proposal. The first paragraph of your introduction, or in this case, your grant proposal, should help readers understand what is interesting about your work. That's where establishing your niche and then occupying your niche come into play. Use precise, formal, but unspecialized language. Think of a specific smart person outside of your field that you would be writing this to. Keep in mind, once again, that your grant proposal will be read by faculty members from across many different departments. So even if you are working on an art history project, one of your reviewers may be a chemistry professor who doesn't understand the artistic traditions that you are referring to. So you want to be sure to avoid jargon if it's unnecessary and explain it if it is necessary. Finally, itemize your budget. Show that you have taken the time to look into how much specific items will cost, and when possible, try to get specific. Here you can see the work cited for the Create a Research Space model that I cited earlier. And finally, if you would like to connect with the University Writing Center, you can find links provided by the Writing Center here. And if you have any questions about this workshop or questions about future workshops, feel free to respond and provide your feedback using the link provided. Thank you so much for viewing this online webinar video. I do sincerely hope that helps. Good luck with your grant proposals, and take care.